So a big welcome to everyone who's joined today. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. Today's event is, I've lost track of how many in the series of global networking events, but we've done a lot. So this is the March event on the subject of video innovations online. For those of you I haven't met before, my name is Hamish Sandison. I'm an international lawyer, dual qualified in the US and the UK, and I chair White Report Global Limited, which is the owner and operator of the Mediaspace platform. I have with me from Mediaspace, Kinga Inser. You'll hear more about her background when she speaks to you. She is the founder and CEO of Mediaspace. And we have Lavina Savendran, who's head of content and communications for Mediaspace. I think we're not going to be joined by one of my colleagues on the board, Phil McCauley, who's on holiday. I don't know why we allowed him to have a holiday today, but there you go. We've got to introduce stricter rules about that, I think, Kinga. But anyway, you'll meet him another time. For those of you who don't know the background of Mediaspace, might just be worth saying a few words about that. As some of you know, we came up with the idea, or we, that's Kinga and the board, the idea of developing a Mediaspace as a platform for media professionals. That was in January of 2020, and not a moment too soon, because a few months later, COVID hit, and of course, we were not able to meet in person, but fortunately we were ready to launch an online platform where people could meet via Mediaspace when they couldn't meet in person. So the idea really is very simple: to connect professionals in media marketing, technology, law, policymaking, science, regulation globally, to provide them with a more interactive platform, allowing them to meet actual people rather than just meeting social media profiles. And the object being to stay ahead of the curve in their professional lives, to find new business opportunities in this more interactive way. And it's been a great success beyond our wildest dreams. We now have members in 70 or more countries. Kinga will tell you a little bit more about that network, how to join it, including our Global Leadership Club for those of you who want to take part with other leading change makers in the industry. So before we start the conversation, let me just tell you about the format and the house rules. We're going to have two parts, as I explained. The panel with our special guests, which we are live streaming. And I'll introduce those special guests in a moment. And then the networking session when we open the conversation to everybody on the call, and that is not public. And the important thing is that the networking session is a meeting in Zoom terminology, not a webinar. Now, I hate webinars, I don't know about you. So instead of sitting there unseen and unheard, you will be able to participate in a conversation with the panelists and with everyone else on the call. Because I think we all know, in my experience certainly, that every great project, every great business starts with a single conversation, and that's what Mediaspace is about. It's in our DNA. No webinars. So before we go any further, can I just ask you, if you haven't already done, to put your full name on the screen? I think most of you have done that, and sign up for Mediaspace Global. This is a free event, but we do like to know that those participating are members, and membership is free. And if you'd like to share your name and email address or your Mediaspace profile in the chat, please do that so that others can then connect you and we can know who is on the call. And as Kinga mentioned earlier, we are removing any AI-assisted individuals who make their way onto the call, because we only want humans on this call. So it's going to be a really interesting discussion. I'm looking forward to it. I'll stop there and I'll invite Kinga to say a few words before we go any further. Kinga.
Thank you, Hamish. Hi, everyone. My name is Kinga. I'm a media expert and the founder and CEO of Mediaspace.global. As you know, At Mediaspace, we are building this global ecosystem to break local and elitist business bubbles. And our professional mission is to bring people together from all around the globe who probably wouldn't meet anyway into conversations like this. There is a huge transformation in the video industry, in the broadcast media, streaming, social media, Web3 and beyond. So we are very, very happy to have video innovators on our panel and in our discussion today. I hope this session will also bring you insights and solutions and opportunities for everyone attending. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Kinga. So we'll move into the panel session first. And we have a fantastic lineup of experts, 4 of them, from very different perspectives in the video online sector. So I'll introduce them one by one, and then I'm going to ask them to say a little bit to open the conversation about themselves and focusing on the challenges that they were seeking to address when they founded their companies and what solutions they have come up with. So just one challenge and one solution, because we must make sure we don't run over time. So tell us why you founded your company, what the challenge was, the main challenge, the big one that you were trying to address, and what was the solution that you came up with. Then we'll carry on that conversation. I'll ask some further questions to debate what is happening in the video innovation space. So the 4 experts we have with us are Eva Thunnel, who is the founder of Shortly Film, David Sarlos, who is the founder of Vialog, Matthew Cimaglia, who's the founder of Altion, and Anthony Copping, the founder of Binumi. And they will explain what their different companies do. But as I say, it's very, very diverse in their range of activities. So I'll begin with you, Eva, if I may, just to give us a brief introduction to what the challenge was you were trying to address with your company and what the solution was that you came up with. So Eva, over to you. So you're on mute, Eva, so we'll have to start again. Yeah, there you go. yeah, off you go. You start again, Eva.
I was asked to be a producer for a short film a few years ago, and when I got that question, I started to look in what possibilities it was to get these films out to the audience. And well, there are different platforms, but how could we really market the film and get the films to the audience that would like this kind of film in the short format? So I found, in that perspective, I turned that offer down and started instead developing Shortly.film.
Right. Okay. And the solution you've come up with to that problem, then, what does Shortly.film do exactly for those of us who haven't yet seen it?
We are a streaming service for short films only. So we are taking on board in most cases unknown filmmakers that are contacting us to want us to help them find their audience and get visibility for their film.
Right. And is there a particular genre or genres that you specialize in?
We have been broad. Now we have narrowed it down to horror, fantastic films, as it's called, horror, sci-fi, and fantasy films mostly.
Right. Okay. I wanted to make that clear so we know what we're going to be seeing. Not today, but when we visit your site. Thank you, Eva. That was great to start us off. David Sarlos, I'll turn to you. Vialog, tell us the challenge you were facing and what you came up with to address that challenge.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. So I'm David Sarlos, founder of Vialog, which is an engagement solution for brands and businesses who want to grow their engagement, signups, and sales with video commands. The challenge that or the issue we have seen is the kind of the increasing loss of trust, especially in the media sector. So we are looking at the solutions to kind of increase and reestablish that trust using video commands.
And how is it going? You talk about trust. I know trust is in short supply and getting shorter at the moment online. How do you address that issue?
Yeah, I think like especially when it comes to text, it has been increasingly hard to kind of trust both sources, but actual content itself, especially when it comes to community or user-generated content. This loss of textual trust will be kind of the ongoing trend as we see the rise of generative or conversational AI. So we are proposing, and I think there is the kind of ecosystem agreement in the scope potentially behind proposing video as the new format for, you know, increasing the current kind of engagement metrics throughout different business verticals.
Right, okay. I think I probably should have asked you to say where you're sitting as we speak. You're in Budapest, is that right?
That's right.
Yes, and Eva, I think, are you in Stockholm or some other part of Sweden? Oh, you're not anywhere. You're on mute. Sorry.
I'm in the south part of Sweden, so about 500 kilometers south of Sweden.
Is that near Lund?
Yes, very near Lund.
Oh, good. I visited Lund a few times for some legal work. A lovely place. Anyway, I will move on to Matthew next, and I will remind you, if you tell us where you're sitting, that's always interesting, as we cover a lot of different time zones. So Matthew Cimaglia is the founder, as I say, of Alteon. So Matthew, your challenge, what were you facing when you founded your company, and what was the solution you came up with?
No, well, thanks for having me on today, and I'm calling in from New York. But I think the biggest challenge was the fact that over 20 years of being in the production industry, I've seen just about every workflow that you could possibly ever imagine, whether it was broadcast, and when I started my career, it was VHS tapes, just to date myself a little bit. But you know, it's sort of these digital evolutions that have happened over time, and nobody has really quite grasped putting everything into one ecosystem. So there's several single purpose apps that do really great jobs at what their purpose is. But as an editor or a producer, there's a lot of fatigue that happens there because you're contextually switching between one platform to the next. And at Alteon, we really have encompassed a lot of different systems, whether we've built them, we've partnered with companies, or we're buying companies that help roll up into our ecosystem to help the entire creative process from start to finish in a cloud-based SaaS solution.
And I think I'm going to put this question to others as well, but I wondered, when you started up, did you face lots of competition, or were you doing something so unusual and different that you faced no competitors?
So the irony is, you know, we started this company right before COVID, and we knew that the general remote work environment was starting to increase during that time period. And then lo and behold, months later, everyone's now remote. So yeah. The other thing that I think is really great about the media space in general is the fact that there are so many different use cases. There are so many different people that are creating content every day, even people that wouldn't necessarily classify themselves as content creators. They're experts in their industry. And to be able to develop a platform, I think there's going to be many others like it. And we've seen this even last week at the National Association of Broadcasters Convention in Vegas, that there are many other companies that are sprouting up now. The fortunate thing is we have my 20 years of experience and then 4 years ahead of us when we've started this platform.
Right. Okay. So you're not without competitors, but you've got a head start.
That is for sure.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Right. Last but not least, can I ask Anthony Copping to come on and tell us about the company that you founded, Binumi? And again, the question is, what was the challenge that you were facing, and what was the solution that you came up with?
Well, I think my history or my journey has really been I came from documentary making with National Geographic, and for me, I realized people were not becoming passive consumers of content. They wanted to create stories and share that with their communities. So my focus and our business focus has been helping creators and companies make factual videos of purpose, whether it's for knowledge or business or even both. So Binumi is a creative tech platform that provides everything you need, and whether you're trying to make, share, collaborate for any purpose with video. And since building, it's been an extraordinary journey, but our users have now made more than 1 million videos. So that's our sort of big takeaway this year. I mean, I think our real belief and the cornerstone of the purpose of the platform is that we don't think video creation is the doyen of the few. We think it's the liberator of many. And I think it's one of the really amazing things that's happening in modern society is that humans now can use video, the most powerful medium in our history, to tell the stories and communicate knowledge. The real challenge with that, Hamish, is that businesses and the consumer landscape has become so complicated, whether it's scripting, accuracy, truth, authenticity, moderation, legal, multiple channels, formats, lengths. The skill sets for the teams involved in trying to do that, whether it's inside a company or even in an agency, has become so wide and daunting that we found as a company, by providing support teams, video on demand services, and we've really helped them adopt and transform to this new landscape where the volume of video required is so intense.
And same question that I put before, did you face competition when you started, or were you just one of a kind?
We actually were quite early in the concept of video creation. So coming from television, we started to see the drop off from watching TV. So we started to realize people wanted to be part of their own storytelling, and we see that now happening in corporate more and more. But we see quite a strong competitive landscape. I think that the thing that's worked for us is really the full vertical. So when you start to offer every element of that journey of video, whether it's the creative or the strategic, or whether it's the actual grunt production, or whether it's the distribution, measuring the statistics and all those elements that come, once you offer the whole vertical, you become a one-stop shop. And I think we still, to some degree, don't have a huge amount of competition in doing that full stack. But how anybody talks about, it doesn't matter how sort of full-on video is in the world, it's still pioneering in most senses in the corners of businesses. Like if you go to the comms department, are they using video in training? Are they using video in these other elements within their business communications? And I think there's a long way to go. So I think despite the competition, there's room for more people coming in, and the growth will be extraordinary in the next 10 years.
So you're not unduly worried about the competition?
I mean, I think what we worry about, we worry about our clients, to be honest with you, Hamish. We're kind of really focused on our clients' performance rather than perhaps stuff. I mean, it's always sort of a bit worrying when people come in and they spend, say, a huge amount of elements of things they're going to do, whether it's a new form of AI storytelling or this or that, and there's a huge amount of money being thrown at solutions. I think there's still sometimes we worry whether we're really being aggressive enough. But I think to some sense in our business, we are changing people's lives, and we're changing businesses' abilities to communicate, and that's been a huge joy. So we don't lose customers often. So I think our job moving forward is just to keep on getting them. So that's really been our story.
Okay, great. And I forgot to ask you, where are you sitting? Somewhere exotic?
Me in London. Our teams are spread around the world. Most of our tech teams are in the East, but most of our 80-90% of our sales are in the US.
Right. Okay, London, where I am as well. Let me move back now to Eva, because I've asked Matt and Anthony about competition, and I guess you're all founders of a new business, a new company. And I guess one theoretical advantage is that you don't face competition, but equally, you may have founded your company in the face of competition. I wonder what the experience was for you, Eva. Were you, again, kind of all on your own, or you were facing competition that was out there already?
Oh, yes, YouTube was there already. So, and people thought that that would be a good place to upload their films and find their audience. But it was not, of course, because it's too big, and all the content that is uploaded there every day, you can't find anything. So that was there, and also some of the other Netflix and things, but we can't even not really compare ourselves with those kinds of streaming services. So yes, competition, but not really.
No, okay. And what about now? Are you still pretty much one of a kind?
Well, since we have an idea of not being only a streaming service, we are building a community. We are working with the commercialization, helping the filmmakers monetize their art and things. So we not in that field really. We are working on so many different levels than other streaming services.
Right. Okay. Turning to David Sarlos, competition, was that a big obstacle, a hurdle for you when you got started with Vialog?
Arguably, yes. So we are kind of an R&D project spin-off from different kind of Innovate UK and the European Commission projects. So from that kind of standpoint, you would have to kind of estimate and evaluate the future 4 years ahead of time. So it's not much of a kind of current competition. However, as Matt was saying yesterday, I think that as a video as a category stands for such a widely expanding and quickly expanding ecosystem that it kind of the competition is a good thing. I would agree on that, and it really helps kind of educate kind of the next levels and the next rounds of people joining this ecosystem. When it comes to kind of the core business of what we do, interactive video, the ability for two-way communication in this format is something we are seeing very few companies still doing this.
Right. Now, I'm going to go back around the panel with a question. I'll give you a few moments to think about it, and I'll ask you another question while you're thinking about it. But the question I want you to think about and end with is the one piece of advice that you would give to the other people on this call, because you are all successful founders. What was it about founding a new business that you would advise, the one big thing you would give advice on to the others on the call? Warning advice or encouraging advice, whatever, just one piece of advice to leave with them. And we'll come back to have a conversation about that. And while you're thinking about what that might be, I wanted to share that we're going to be doing an event later this year. I think Kinga will give you a bit more detail. We've even got a date, I believe, for it later in the year, a summit meeting. And one of the lenses we're going to use to look at media challenges is the question of AI, artificial intelligence. And I wondered for all of the panelists whether you thought that that was a particular threat to your business or not. And if not, what are the biggest threats? One of the biggest threats, perhaps, you could identify. But the AI seems to us to be quite a challenging subject that will affect all of the work that you're doing, I suspect. So I wondered if you'd give us your perspective on that. Anthony, could I come to you first? What's your assessment of AI and the challenges it presents to your business?
I think it's a huge opportunity in many cases. I think that people, when it comes to video creation, have a sort of inception problem. What video I'm making? What's the story I'm making? So I think there's something really interesting about the fact that we could use AI to kind of provide some people additional help in those first steps. Despite that, I think full pragmatic video made by AI will lend itself to smaller companies who are cost conscious. I think the bigger companies will struggle with allowing that to happen to some degree and want a hand on it. So I think that there is a threat in terms of full pragmatic, but we see it as probably something that could be very useful in helping our users incept ideas and possibly content search. So.
Right. Thank you, Anthony. Matthew, any thoughts on AI? Good, bad, indifferent? Where's Anthony? Yeah, you're on mute, Anthony. Could you hear me?
You asked. I thought you asked David. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I'm asking you, Anthony.
You're asking me again, right? So
I'm
what's the
sorry.
question?
No. Sorry. Let me go backwards. Let me go to Matthew.
Okay.
Sorry, Anthony.
That's
It's
good.
Matthew. I was wanting to address the question of AI.
Sure. So I actually wrote an article about this in 2018, really outlining a lot of the various uses that AI can impact content creation. I'm a firm believer still to this day that there still needs to be a human touch involved in the creative process, because as much as I love AI and love technology and love all of the things that even ChatGPT has been doing, I still look at it from the creative process of that organic nature of understanding a funny moment or a sad moment or a moment that, you know, people need to take pause at. I don't think that AI is quite at that moment yet. From an editor's perspective, being able to leverage AI in the way that you can have shots potentially, you know, recommended to you. I think that's a really huge aspect of how we could see AI helping content creators. We've seen obviously ChatGPT over the last couple months spike in popularity just based on the fact that you can say, write a story for me, and it writes a story about whatever that subject is, and you can keep refining it. But you have to go back to remember that the only way that it's been able to write these stories is because humans have written these stories ahead of time, and it's learned from that process over hundreds of years of people writing stories, that it's trained on those models. So even when you are leveraging AI, you have to realize the fact that at some point a human was involved in making that success.
Right. Okay. So not as much negativity as perhaps some people are suggesting. You're seeing some positives here. David, what's your thought about AI, threat or opportunity?
I think the one to highlight here is an opportunity actually, and that is when it comes to video commenting. So that is, I guess, video creation for the rest of us on the internet, just, you know, browsing through and kind of on previously one-way websites, one-way communication websites. I think the opportunity lies in safeguarding these interactions. And I think that AI has a very nice application in content moderation and ensuring that the content that surfaces from, you know, there's many phones and devices can be safe for the widest possible audiences in a smooth process. So when it comes to content moderation, I think AI is a great opportunity, and the challenge is really what happens to all the rest of the content that has ever been created and published when it comes to text and pictures, and then we will have increasing doubts about their kind of truthfulness. So again, that kind of the issue around trust, I think, is what the AI highlights even further. Yeah.
Would it be useful, do you think, David, for us to not do a conference on AI as such, but to look at some of the challenges in the media sector through the AI lens? Because certainly some of the debates we've had with lawyers, regulators, and others in previous events has been to express some fears and concerns about what happens to democracy when it's not clear whether a particular video or written piece of work is real or fake. Would it be useful to have a conversation, do you think, in the media sector about that question?
Absolutely, conversations are always useful. I would say, like, we definitely need to kind of a long view discussion with the widest possible stakeholders involved in regards to the ethics and the kind of the implications around the future use and integration of AI.
Okay, well, I think we're going to follow that advice and do something. We'll let you know about the event. Eva, just come to you last. If you could give us your thoughts about AI, and then I'll put to you the question to finish with, which is, if there was one piece of advice as a founder of a successful company that you would give to this group, what would it be? So first on AI, and then your one piece of advice.
I think it's an opportunity, but still, for the tech side of our work, so for the platform, it's an opportunity, and we could help. We could develop things, how to make content visible, more visible in different platforms and in different ways. So I think it's a really good opportunity. And still, as a platform, we can see that we can also see how the audience are choosing how they want to see the different content, and how we can work with content to make it more visible and easier find the audience. So I think it's an opportunity.
Okay, and one piece of advice for this this group as a founder?
Don't be afraid to kill your babies.
Right. Is that the content of one of your movies?
Can be a movie.
Okay, can you just explain that a little bit more? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, you find yourself to an end, and you have to iterate, and you have to do all this work over and over again. And if it's not working, just leave it, because you have to decide at some point that this is working or not. And when you are at that end, just leave it.
Okay, all right. Well, that sounds like good but challenging advice.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I'll come to Anthony next. I really mean you, Anthony, to give your one piece of advice.
A simple one, really, just resilience. So, you know, if you have a really great product and a great idea, then you just have the resilience required is just extraordinary. And you know, expect things to be longer and take longer than you think. There's hardly ever shortcuts. And be careful with where you get your funding. Stay small, lean, mean, and make your product as valuable as you can in the short term before you take money to grow it too fast. That'd be my advice.
I think that was several pieces of advice there, but that's all right.
Good, I couldn't help myself.
Yeah, that's all right.
I had a moment and I went for it.
Yeah, no, that's all good advice. And in terms of resilience, presumably, as Eva, I think, is saying, you reach a certain point, however resilient, you have to decide, well, this isn't going to work, so I'm going to kill the baby. How do you identify that point in your world, Anthony?
Well,
yeah, Ava, feel free to go ahead. But I mean, certainly for me, the users speak the volumes, really. So I mean, you'll start to realize it doesn't work for people, and you've got to look at that and, you know, stop blindly believing your idea is right from the beginning, and adapt. So
listen to your users. Eva, did you want to come in on that?
No, it's the same. The users. It's that
users. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Be guided by your users. Right. Matthew, have you got one piece of advice for us?
Yeah, so the name of my holding company is actually Third Summit, because I've done Everest Base Camp, I've done Kilimanjaro Summit, and I felt like building a company was going to be my third summit. So just to give perspective there, but I think it's always around, and you know, the others have mentioned this as well, but it's building a strong team and a network. And when I say strong team, I don't necessarily mean people that are always going to say, yes, that's a great idea. I think it's so important to have people that can challenge you and you feel comfortable taking their information and listening to that challenge, because I would rather a trusted source tell me something's a bad idea than get something out into the marketplace and then thousands of people say, hey, this was a really bad idea. So I think really trusting the people that are around you and supporting each other. And again, you know, problem solving, right? It's always about making sure that you're quickly adapting to the scenarios that are in front of you and making sure that you're making quick, decisive moves in order to move on to the next step.
Thank you, Matt. I think that's probably good advice for most politicians as well. I've spent a bit of time in politics, and I think that the failed politicians are those who haven't listened to the negative advice. Don't do that, or do this. When you stop listening to that advice, then you're in trouble.
We could have a whole nother topic on American politics another day.
Yeah, we'll stop on that one. Listen, you've been a fantastic panel, but your work is not done, because we'll close this panel. We'll stop the live streaming, but just allow me to say on behalf of all of us, thank you very, very much for sharing your expertise and your experience so generously, and giving us such good advice and such inspiring stories about the companies that you've founded, and we wish you lots of success in the future. So I think now we can turn to part 2 of the conversation, Kinga, and Lavina, no doubt, will turn off the live stream, and we're going to go into a routine that some of you are familiar with, some of you aren't. So let me just explain the rules. As I say, it's about bringing everybody into this conversation. And an important part of that is to introduce ourselves, because we want everybody on the call to know who the other participants are. So we ask everybody, other than the panelists who've already introduced themselves, but I'd ask everyone else to introduce yourself with your name, where you are sitting, you know, London, Budapest, wherever it is, your organization, if you're part of one, and your position in it. And then just one sentence, no more than that. We don't want to know your CV, where you went to nursery school, just one sentence about what brought you here to this event today. And then when we've gone around the call, we'll have a conversation. And if you want to take part, all you do is raise your hand or use the icon that's down there under reactions, and I will call you by name to take part in that. So, Kinga, why don't you show us how to do? No, let me go to Lavina, because Lavina hasn't spoken yet. Lavina, would you show us how you do that little 30-second introduction,
Sure.
so that everybody follows that and we can move on?
Okay. Hi, I'm Lavina Sidenthiran, and I work for Mediaspace.global as the head of content and communications. I am based in London, and I host the Members Daily series on the platform, and I've had the chance to interview some of you already. If you're interested, get in touch and we can see how that goes. But I'm here to meet you all, and I'm interested in video innovation. So that's me done.
Very good. Thank you, Lavina. That's how it works. I've already introduced myself, so has Kinga. So I'll move next to Lulu Laidlaw-Smith. Would you like to introduce yourself, Lulu?
Hi, everyone. Lulu Laidlaw-Smith. I work for Binumi, and I'm head of growth for them in the enterprise aspect of the company. I'm here to understand and get some more insights really into sort of what we don't know, to sort of progress that, because you know there are certain challenges out there. So thank you very much for your time.
Very good. Sorry, did you say where you are physically sitting?
Oh, sorry, I'm in the UK, in the Cotswolds.
In the Cotswolds. Okay, west of London.
Yes.
Good. Welcome, Lulu. Nice to meet you. I'll move next to Andras. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, yes. My name is Andras Kalos. I'm sitting in beautiful sunny Budapest. And I have 2 legs. I'm one of the lead mentors of a Budapest-based startup incubation house. So I'm always looking at new innovative companies in the market and supporting them and figuring out what are the new technologies that they should be working in. I'm also, I also work in marketing operations, and from that side, I'm interested in privacy. So new platforms, content management, distribution, privacy. So I think both of those are coming together here nicely, especially with the AI talk. That was interesting.
Very good. Thank you, Andras. Nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us. Moving on to a familiar face, Chris Lowry. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So I am now sales manager with Lulu and Anthony at Binumi. However, was previously working with David at Vialog. So it's really good to see you again, David, as well. Brought me here because one, I got to see David and Anthony talk about 2 businesses that I know very well. And it was also fantastic to hear about Shortly and Altion and Matt. It's good to see you again as well. But looking forward to hearing what people's thoughts are on video. And the question for me is specifically, what is scale to people? What does scale mean to people?
And I think you're in the UK. Tell us where you're sitting.
Yeah, so I'm not so sunny Cornwall, which is about 6 hours southwest of London. But yeah, it's pretty miserable down here today.
Yeah, very good. Okay. Well, nice to see you again, Chris. Thanks for joining us.
And you.
Next, we've got Juan Ramon. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, good afternoon. Juan Ramon Zarco at Silicon Valley Venture Growth Partners. I'm in New York City and dealing with both strategy and financing and packaging companies for additional rounds of financing. Yesterday, I sat through a conference regarding AI regulatory issues regarding Europe and Asia and Latin America. So I try to look at companies to see how they can expand and still be copacetic with regard to local rules and regulations.
Great. So it's good to have you back again, Juan. It's nice to see you, a regular attender at these events. And I'll move on to Christina Menig. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Christina Meinig. I am with the Alliance for Audited Media, or AAM for short. I head up our market development and partnerships, so working with different publishers, advertisers, ad tech, and also the IAB and the Trustworthy Accountability Group. AAM is a not-for-profit, and sort of we bring the industry together to address different challenges. And I would say like the core of our business is publisher audits and providing data to advertisers. So I'm in Chicago, actually 45 minutes west in the suburbs. It's pretty warm here today, 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which is I think 4 degrees Celsius. And I'm just really interested in hearing about the challenges in kind of every channel, whether it's, video or, print or digital. So to see where we might be able to help. So nice meeting all of you.
Great. Thanks for joining us, Christina. Nice to meet you. Moving on, Tamas Kovacs, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Tamas. And yeah, I'm recently following Mediaspace and Kinga's activity found on LinkedIn. And I sit in Berlin and I work for Schindler Escalators and Elevators, if you know the brand. And I do the global marketing strategy and content and campaigns for the brand. So video creation, especially versioning, is something that I'm very keen to learn about, and kind of one of the biggest challenging that we are facing of these days.
Good. Thank you, Tamas. Nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us. I think the last person to introduce himself now is Peter Perez. Peter, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Hamish, and apologies for coming in halfway through. Kinga, I'm here because she invited me, so I'm glad to catch at least a portion of this. I'm in Austin, Texas. I am a co-founder of a virtual events company called Inverse.app, where we help Web 2 and Web 3 audiences host conventions at scale in immersive virtual worlds using game technology. Over a decade now and working in event production, gaming and esports, and now brought me into kind of this beginning stages of laying the foundation for what could be like conventions in the metaverse. I'm not too fond of that, like verbiage, because I think the metaverse is more of, it's nebulous, right? It's kind of moving and evolving and requires a lot of moving parts, but content-driven experiences, autonomy and immersion. So media and video is very important for this audience. And so I'm here to really immerse myself in the problems and solutions that exist around there. So Kinga, thank you for inviting me.
Well, Peter, thank you for joining us. It's great to have you with us. And I think I've introduced everybody. Have I left anyone out? I hope not. No. In that case, let me sort of suggest we deal first with any questions or comments on what the panelists had to say, so that if you heard something that you'd like to challenge or you'd like to agree with or disagree with, now is a good time to do it. And then when we've explored that, I think we might move on to say, what were the things that weren't mentioned that you think, from your perspective, you'd like to hear from the panelists about, or that you'd just like to raise so that everybody can hear about it and discuss it. So beginning first with any questions or comments or challenges from those who haven't spoken to those who did speak on the panel. I'm very happy to take any topic that you'd like to question from the panelists. Who wants to put their hand up? Anything that you'd like to raise? Don't be shy. Right, I've got Juan Ramon. Would you like to go first?
Sure. Out of curiosity, Bloomberg had shown company out of San Francisco that was building video via AI, and it was fairly well funded. That's one of the trends that I'm seeing here in the impact in media on the internet. The other impact, in fact, that we're talking about this morning is the impact of companies like TikTok and all that. The brevity of all the content that's going on. Where does your group or these speakers really feel if that trend is really influencing the way they're creating their content? Do they see the brevity or their duration is being shortened because of the trend in the internet? So what are your personal opinions on that?
Okay, I'll take one or two more questions before I go back to the panel. Anyone else want to come in with a question or comment for the panelists? Just raise your hand or use the icon. Any? Yes, okay, I've got Lulu. Would you like to make your point next?
It was really a question for Eva on obviously realizing much more about your audience of the filmmakers. Are you providing a situation where they can actually get funding prior to? Because obviously, as I know, filmmakers seem to get sort of 3/4 of the way through and then they need the funding to actually do the last quarter. It's a lot of work and investment.
Okay, before I come to Eva, is there a third question or comment? And then we'll take those as a group. Yes, Andras, would you like to go next?
Yeah, since I did comment about privacy, in all of your areas, you're all dealing with privacy in one way or the other. How difficult was to understand the legislations and deliver on them when you're starting your business?
Okay, thank you, Andras. Right, we've got 3 questions or comments. I'll start with Eva. One of them was addressed to you about funding, but Eva, if you'd like to go first and comment on any of those 3 questions, go ahead.
And the questions, I didn't hear. The question from Lulu about audience and funding or filmmaker and funding. No, we don't do anything in that field. We are in the next step. So we are advising the filmmakers during the production of the films how to do for the material that we would like that we need to help them to market their film, but nothing with financing or investing. No.
Did you have any comments on the brevity point that Juan Ramon made? Shortly film, you might have a view about brevity.
Yeah, no, well, that was also, we had a lawyer in our team, so that was all set up together with the lawyers from the beginning, so.
No, but I mean on brevity specifically, not privacy, but brevity, shortness.
No.
No, okay. Then I'll move on to David next. Would you like to comment on any of those 3 points?
I can pick it up on the kind of legislation side for Andras. I think, yeah, of course. I mean, it kind of becomes a constant struggle, for example, with the current kind of foreseeable rise with the DSA, something we were just discussing at Mediaspace last week. It's definitely, a constant legislation landscape that keeps evolving, and kind of platforms are definitely kind of stuck in kind of reflecting those changes, whether it's as easy ultimately as a third-party integration that takes care of all your cookies management, whether it's something more complex that you have to kind of restructure your kind of data sets around it. But it is definitely of constant concern, and I think there is a slight imbalance for kind of like small companies requirements as opposed to the speaking of the European landscape, of course, in this term.
Yeah. What about any of the other points on funding from Lulu?
I don't think that necessarily applies to Vialog. I think Eva picked it up. I would have further comment on that.
No, and what about brevity?
Not on that either.
No, okay. Now, Matthew, would you like to comment on any of the
Sure.
points?
So I want to address the AI one first, because that seems to be the hot topic today. But one of the things that I will kind of go back on is the fact that I worked at NBC Network for the broadcaster for a number of years. And in the mornings, they would have a meeting amongst dozens of people that would help determine the news of the day. So what was it that we were going to report on? What was it that was the most important topic? Because in nightly news at 6 p.m. or 6:30, you only have a minute to tell a story about something that's happening globally. And so they would determine, again, during these meetings, what would happen. We've seen this immediate shift over the last couple of years where content creators have access to the tools that a lot of the broadcasters used to have exclusively, meaning on my iPhone, I have a 4K camera that rivals anything else that's out there from a news perspective. So I can go out and shoot my own story using an iPhone. I have content management systems like the one that I created or the others that are on this call to be able to produce that content quickly or distribute it in ways that, again, only networks used to have. So I think it's really important to highlight using AI, you're able to quickly determine the story that you're going to be telling for that day. It's important, again, as humans, or to leverage AI in certain aspects as well, to make sure that you're telling a sort of more unbiased opinion of that story. So maybe having something fact check you a little bit, or going out there to multiple sources, because even though people are using ChatGPT, there's still a lot of flaws in it where it'll recommend something to you that actually doesn't even exist. So it's important for a human to go back and check that, but AI is getting better. So that's the first part of sort of leveraging AI. Again, just use it with caution. I would say that's the biggest thing there.
Go ahead. Did you want to comment on any of the other points that were raised, Matthew?
Remind me of the other points.
Well,
it keeps going around.
Yeah, keep going. We've got Lulu on funding. We've got Andres on privacy. Did any of those strike a chord with you?
Yeah, I mean, both of them. I would say that more on the privacy side. Even at my company Alteon, I'm the founder of the company, and I don't have access to our users' data. I can't see videos that you're uploading. I can't see the content that you're creating within the platform. I actually had a close friend of mine that's producing a documentary, and she was really excited for me to see some of her footage that was uploaded. And I said, look, I can't see it unless you explicitly share it with me. And so I think it's important for software developers or technology to really understand the importance of data privacy and security for their users. So again, something that we've taken a lot of pride in the sense that we're not scraping that, we're not mining it, we're not exposing out users' data unless explicitly authorized to do so.
So do you see that as a USP for you, that you're actually very respectful of privacy, that's something that, sets you apart and is a positive thing for your company?
I think it's something that's just, it should be human nature or digital nature, if you want to sort of recoin it that. I think that there has been, I've been very strong advocate for Web3 and blockchain technologies, because I believe in the user's ownership of their data rather than a social media company owning all of that data. So when I used to go and have a picture of my friends or a trip that I would go on, I'd have a camera and I'd bring that roll of film to a place to process that film. And when I got that film back, I physically owned those pictures. They were in my possession. People didn't realize with social media that they were giving away their rights, and they were almost getting charged for it in a different way, in the sense of people scraping that data and understanding it in different ways that they were now being marketed to and sold products to based on those images. Going back into Web3 and minting a image of myself on a vacation or at an event or something, I own that file if I mint it out as an NFT. And that's something that I've been a very strong advocate for. And I am excited to see the world shifting back into this course correction of data ownership.
Yeah, you mentioned Web3, Matt. What are your thoughts about Web3?
So we developed a minting platform, and we are giving it away for free. We actually partnered with the Opera web browser company And so if you open up the crypto browser, you'll see our icon on there for Altion. And our Launchpad was really meant to inspire people. It was meant to give this technology away to people in such a way that they didn't have to think about how their NFT was being minted. They didn't have to worry about the security of it or giving away their data privacy. And it's their ownership. When it comes to Web3, we're going in that direction, whether people like it or not. I think that there have been a lot of bad actors in the last year or two, people that were really exploiting the true nature behind why blockchain or the methodologies behind blockchain were going to be positive for our world. Again, I think that we have a big branding exercise, again, wearing my old branding hat now, to really retool what Web3 means, what blockchain means, what NFTs mean, because there's a huge amount of positive value in it. And again, because we've seen some catastrophic events over the last year or two, I hope that doesn't really sour everyone's taste on the direction that we are genuinely going down.
Terrific. That's fascinating. Thank you, Matt. Let's turn to Anthony to address any of the topics that have been raised by the questioners or indeed by the conversation we've just been having. Anthony. So you're on mute at the moment, Anthony.
There you go, Eva. You're not alone. I made the same mistake.
There you go. Carry on.
Yeah, good. So there's a couple of other questions in the introductions too, which I'll touch on first. First one was Tomas, who was talking about scale of video and how to get video out globally. We deal with that a lot, and I think it's an area of video that's often overlooked. Like we may make a video for a customer in the US, but we'll need to make a specific video for every state. And then in each state, we may need to make a video for unique demographics or for unique product lines, or even for RFPs or one-on-one meetings. So the volume of video is so extraordinarily important to give companies leverage, and that's something we solve and we found to solve by adding in people plus platform. So that's like a servicing team sometimes to help companies reach that scale. We think that's a massive trend that's occurring, which is targeted video. In the question around brevity and AI from Juan, I think we've had a real movement to very short video. There's some real strength around very, very short video, singular messaging. I think that's not unlike the history of books in a way. We've had, limericks, and then we have author big novels, and we have short. I think it does move around a little bit. So I think at the moment, brevity is king. And I think it does allow for more user-generated content to be able to deliver that. And I think that's why that's occurring, especially on platforms like TikTok. I think that's also has possibly a negative possibility from AI, where they can create that through AI, where the deeper stories may be a little bit more difficult. Around privacy, Andres, we started in education. So we started with huge issue around privacy around student data. We still can't host student data. We have to have servers in particular locations. We have huge dilemmas around that, but that gave us a great learning around privacy and how to do that through technology. A never-ending challenge of compliance is a really big part of the investment, ongoing investments for companies, especially when you want to deal with blue chip. I think I kind of dealt with most questions there. Did I miss any, Hamish?
I think you've done them all, except funding, maybe, from Lulu.
Lulu's just asking for more money, Hamish.
Well, we'll just go off the call and talk among yourselves, intercompany stuff.
Exactly.
I know. Anything on funding you wanted to say? Not specific.
Well, I think the thing is, the point of probably shortly, which is a fantastic idea, and other revolutions happening around sort of IPTV. I think that the essence is, can creators create stories on the technology they might already have with them, i.e. a phone or a computer? And I think companies like ours and other people who are represented here today do help that process. So I think if you're making a short film and you're trying to build the ladder to being a very accomplished professional storyteller, then I think you've got to find ways to be able to make it. I think that's just the reality of the market. I think the next stage up, how do I make a very, very serious short film, or like a very, featuring shots of flamingos from helicopters or something. And obviously you need to be able to build the audience at a certain level. And I'm sure Shortly helps that. So I think it's really funding comes when you have the audience or you have the user. And if you don't have those and you're just striking out, then I think you've got to find ways. And I think that hasn't changed for many a year, to be honest, coming from documentary making, where I funded myself for 10 years and more. So I know what that's like.
That's very, very helpful. I've made a note of your comment about brevity is king. As a lawyer, and it's not true that lawyers are paid by the word, but you sometimes might think it's true. Brevity is a great virtue. That's for sure.
Well,
my question for you, Anthony, is, in terms of communicating information, obviously, video is king in a sense now. Is also what you're saying, and what's happening to the written word? I mean, are we still going to communicate with written words, and how does video fit into that?
Yeah, funny you should ask that. And as a lawyer, obviously, it's something close to your heart, because writing is a very very beautiful skill. We've actually found a return of importance in that. In fact, we've got a very strong partnership out of New York with behavioral science around words and what words mean to individuals, and how different words to different human groups mean different things. Like, some people would like to be told something, other people like to be asked it. And so so I think video and actually the multiplicity of video, or the scalability or the variations of videos in targeting demographics or certain communities, the use of the word is absolutely vital, and probably one of the biggest skills that are being reborn, I think. I think partly because so many people have forgotten how to write, which is very, very hard talent now to find, to be honest. So I think scripting is not something that is disappearing. I think that's why GPT has this kind of human conversation, and able to convert a human conversation to an idea into a script, is why it's become so popular. Like, I'm talking to a human who can then solve my problem, because I myself am struggling to write it. But I think that's a GPT thing is magic in some ways, or it feels like magic. But I think if you really are a great copywriter, I think it's becoming more valuable currently. I feel that's coming back.
Right.
An optimist about that.
Lawyers are not going to be put out of business anytime soon.
Well, never.
We'll see. We'll see about that. It's always my goal to put them out of business if I do a good job, but I've never succeeded yet.
Exactly.
I've never succeeded. Now, look, we're running out of time. Sadly, this is always the case. But I promised that you'd have an opportunity to raise an issue that hadn't yet been addressed. Perhaps it's an issue you're dealing with in your business, especially those who haven't yet spoken in the conversation. And I'm going to call on Kinga as well to raise an issue that hasn't been raised that you'd like to raise. I'm not talking about your final pitch for members to join Mediaspace, but any other issues you think we haven't done justice to. So we've got about 5 minutes for that. So while Kinga's thinking, is there anyone who wants to raise an issue that hasn't yet been addressed, or sufficiently addressed anyway, who hasn't already spoken in particular? I'll take that now and put it back to the panel. Yeah, Matt is scratching his head. I take it that wasn't a point that you wanted to make yet?
No.
No, okay, good. Anyone want to raise an issue that hasn't yet been raised, or a challenge that you're having to face, or a solution that you've got up your sleeve?
Well, I want to know where Matt developed a world of film in New York City. Who does develop worlds of film still in New York City? That's my curiosity.
Okay, all right. Kinga, do you want to sort of branch out to any other topic that you don't think we've adequately discussed, and give your views on that?
Yes, thank you. There are lots of very interesting topics and points around video, but I just would like to ask one thing, because I see a contradiction between the statistical data regarding the video boom that we all see in a way, but at the same time, if I look at the close reality that who I'm meeting and how marketers, advertisers, publishers speak about video, I see they are very much behind, and I wonder how you see this gap. And I suppose you do a lots of educational job to explain how and why video would be good for different communication purposes. So that's my question. How do you handle this gap between the generic boom and the day-to-day reality.
So that's a very big question, Kinga. So
Well,
I'll
I
leave
think
that I'll leave that to
it's a brilliant question.
hang on a second, just before I'll let every panelist comment on that in a second. Were there any other issues that anyone want to raise quickly that you hadn't had a chance to raise? No? Okay. All right. Well, look, let's just run through that from any perspective you want. I'll start with Eva. Anything about the video boom that Kinga has raised that you'd like to say briefly?
Well, I think that short films, quality short films and videos, that's the same for the younger generation. So we have to understand and talk the language that are out there to the audience that we would like to meet. But also there is a big difference between how to approach your audience and how to find your audience. And I think that's the most challenging thing to do, to find the right audience for the right film for us.
Right. Thank you, Eva. David, would you like to comment on what Kinga has said?
Yeah, absolutely. It just made me think about the times when I was in digital film or word cinema distribution, and I had the opportunity to see hundreds of film yearly, and it was the rise of kind of DSLR full frame cameras. So everybody was making kind of good quality cinemas from the most rural corners of the world. So that was kind of the democratization of kind of fictional storytelling, but also documentary making. And I think that as this now have reached their own pockets, it has become kind of a new kind of ground for fundamentally different kind of conversations and storytelling as well. So I think in the Web3 era, what we will be increasingly seeing is these new forms of interactions, increasingly using video, that are being unlocked and kind of experimented with and piloted and scaled. Yeah.
Thank you, David. Matt, would you like to comment on Kinga's point?
Yeah, I think that overall, we've expanded the global reach of specific conversations. And what I mean by that is it doesn't always have to be a blockbuster film. It doesn't always have to have hundreds of millions of hits in order for something to be a success. I think when you sort of retract it down to a specific niche audience, people that are focused on a specific topic, if you're hitting them and you're able to communicate with them appropriately or expand a conversation in specific ways, that in itself is a success. And by giving the tools that we have and democratizing the entire process of content creation, we've now, again, expanded that conversation out to people that are in nooks and crannies of the world that were focused on something very specific that are now being heard or now being spoken to. So I think, if anything, it's only increasing, it's only getting better. I'm excited for what's coming in the content creation space. And I think that what everyone on this call collectively is doing is genuinely going in that direction.
Thank you, Matt. Last but not least, Anthony, would you like to comment on what Kinga said? And you're on mute.
I think what Matt was saying is spot on. I do think Kinga was slightly referring to how a new type of person in the video space, and how are they too late, or do they need education, and what's the difference between the boom and not being part of it. I think targeted video is really where it's going. People will watch what they want to watch, and they'll be more and more trained into watching specific programming or content they need. So I think niche is powerful. Niche is very, very powerful. I think it's never too late, and I think it will only grow, is my opinion on all of that.
Thank you, Anthony. Well, look, my job just to thank you enormously for your contributions from the panel, from the rest of the callers. It's been a fascinating and very broad-gauged discussion. We will have more because there's a lot more to be said, but I hope you found this a useful and productive first crack at the topic of video innovation online. I'll ask Kinga now to say a last few words about Mediaspace, what's coming up, what the exciting new things that we have in the pipeline. Kinga.
Sure, thank you. So I hope you found this networking session useful. Thank you for attending, and please do follow up with those who you found interesting to meet. Feel free to leave a video message on Mediaspace because we've got a Vialog account, and you can say hello to other Mediaspace members. And Hamish mentioned we are working on an annual summit. We've got a date, the 28th of September for that. It's going to be called Mediaspace Global Changemaker Summit, and we will share more information, details about it later, but please mark your calendar. It's going to be the Davos for the media and advertising space, a high-level discussion and conversation.
Without the snow, that is Davos without the snow.
And no private jets or anything like that, because it's going to be online. Yes. If you are a leadership club member, you are free to join the summit. Otherwise, you will be able to buy tickets, and this is an invite-only session because we would like to make this content and conversation exclusive. We've got amazing other events coming up. Please check out the Mediaspace platform, the event page, to see more of them, and looking forward to meeting you. Let's keep in touch and be social.
Thank you, Kinga, and thank you to everybody. Stay safe and see you soon. Bye for now.